Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Southeastern Theater Conference, welcome to the SETC Theater Teaching Collaborative webinar on diversifying approaches to acting. I am Jeff Gibson, past president of SETC and an organizer with the SETC Theater Teaching Collaborative, an effort focused on sharing teaching resources and expertise. Before we begin, I do have a few announcements for you. First, this session is being recorded, and we will be sharing registrants' emails with the Black Acting Method Studio. However, if you would like to opt out, please send an email to chris@setc.org. Again, that's chris@setc.org. So today's presentation should run about 40 to 45 minutes. There will be a Q&A at the end of the presentation. And we ask that you refrain from posting questions for presenters in the comments section, but rather that you post those questions in the Q&A box that's located in the toolbar. And in that Q&A box, you can vote for your favorite questions or you can pose a new one. I'd like to plug some upcoming SETC programming. First, the registration for the National Conference on Outdoor Theater is now open, and it takes place October 1 and 2. This two-day virtual event is geared toward both indoor and outdoor theater practitioners. Session topics include pandemic proofing, equity and inclusion, and creative solutions. Cost to attend is pay what you will, starting at $1. And for more information, visit outdoor-theater.org. And that's being posted in the chat for you for easy access. Next, registration for LINK in partnership with USITT will be opening soon and takes place at the beginning of December. This virtual event connects master's candidates and graduate programs through interviews and networking events. For more information, visit setc.org/link. I also hope you'll join us for more upcoming programs from the Theater Teaching Collaborative. Our next sessions will focus on design and technology instruction, and these will begin in September. And you can keep an eye on your inbox and social media for specific details coming your way soon. And last but not least, if you're looking to stay connected to theater opportunities nationwide, I hope you'll consider joining SETC as a member today. Details, benefits, and membership registration is online at setc.org/membership. And now, let's turn our attention to why you're here today, Diversifying Approaches to Acting with Dr. Sharrell Luckett. Sharrell D. Luckett, PhD, is founding executive director of the Black Acting Method Studio and director of the Helen Weinberger Center for Drama and Playwriting at the University of Cincinnati. At UC, she is also a drama and performance studies professor in the Department of English and Comparative Literature, affiliate faculty in the Departments of Africana Studies and Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies, and collaborates with the acting, musical theater, and dance programs in the College Conservatory of Music. A sought-after artist and speaker, Luckett has had residencies at renowned institutions such as the Lincoln Center, Harvard University, and 92Y. She is lead editor of the best-selling, award-winning Black Acting Methods, Critical Approaches. Thank you so much for being with us today, Dr. Luckett, and I am turning the floor all over to you.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for making time in your busy schedules. I know school just started, whether you're tuning in from the universities, colleges, high school, middle school, maybe even elementary school, professional theater companies, community theater companies. Welcome, welcome, welcome to this wonderful partnership between SETC and the Black Acting Method Studio. I want to also say thank you to Jeff, Susie, Chris, and Lee for organizing this. We're excited to be here, and we are going to have fun sharing the space. So what I want to know right now is, how are you guys feeling? If we can feel that chat up, because I need some energy and my studio members need some energy as well. So if you could just type in the chat box, how are you feeling? Hey, Brandon. Hey, Andrew. Matthew, what's up? Sarah and Kiji. Oh, so many people. Holly, Abdul, thank y'all so much. Yes, yes, yes. Sophia, I see you. Stephen, Teresa, Richard. Yep, another Sophia. Okay, cool. Katie, hey, what's up? Thank you for the heart. We appreciate that. Or the heart, how do you do it? The heart. Yes, excited. And we want to say also thank you to our huge BAM fam. We got a lot of emails saying that you're coming back, you know, for more. So thank you guys for always showing up for us, and we hope to always show up for you. So a couple of things I wanted to tell you guys. This webinar is going to be about an hour, and then we're going to have Q&A, but we probably won't go past 90 minutes. Okay. I always like to give people a time, a sense of the time. All right. So we can't do it all in an hour, but we can certainly start somewhere. So the goals of this webinar are to introduce you to the Black Acting Methods Studio, to talk about the field of Black Acting Methods. When you leave this webinar, we want you to have a pretty good grasp on what the book is, where it came from, and the work of the studio. We're also going to give you some tools that you can implement right now to make your classrooms even more inclusive, for those of you who are starting to make it inclusive, and then for those of you who are it's already inclusive, but you want some more tips on how to make it even more inclusive. So we're going to do that as well. And we're going to talk about hip hop theater a little bit too. Professor Cassie Johnson has agreed to do that, and so I'm excited to talk about all of that. All righty. So before we get started, thank you, Jeff, for that introduction. I want to introduce to you the studio members. If you guys can come on in, Black Acting Methods Studio, the studio instructors, and also COO and Frederick Marte. And everyone in attendance, we're all here except for Sam Collier, who does spirituality as well. He just released a huge book called A Greater Story. Look it up on Amazon. It was just released in the UK today, so he couldn't be with us today, but he sends his blessings and his love. And other than Sam Collier, we are all here. So I'm going to turn it over to the studio members to introduce yourselves.
Greetings, everyone. I hope that I'm being heard. My name is Teer, Dr. Teer M. Shaffer. I am co-editor of Black Acting Methods Critical Approaches. I am also a member of the BAM Studio as an artistic associate, specializing in spirituality and also curriculum. In my former life, and I'll explain why I say that. In my former life, I taught high school theater for 13 years. Also was a youth minister at Zion Hill Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia. Going back to my high school years, I specialized in teaching students who were being exposed to theater for the first time. It was a very rewarding thing to do, to introduce young people to the world of the arts. Personally, I fell in love with theater at the age of 14 as a student at Tri-Cities High School studying under Freddie Hendrix. So now in my current life, I am a stay-at-home mom. However, I made a promise to myself that I would always follow what brings me joy, and truly working with Dr. Sharrell Luckett and all of the other members of the BAM fam. That is my passion. That is my joy. And so I'm honored to have you all here with us today, and we're looking forward to sharing with you.
Hey everybody, my name is Jewel D. Lane, and I am an Executive Artistic Associate of the Black Acting Methods Studio. We are super excited to have you out here today. The things that I'm very passionate about is dance, choreography, and filmmaking. So a lot of times in my offering within the studio, I like to dismantle everyday movements, mix that with dance practices, but also use it as an anchor for storytelling and theater. So in addition to all of that, I am an instructor and a choreographer at the University of North Carolina School of the Arts, and I'm also at University of the Arts in Philadelphia. Once Rona get up out of our houses and we're able to do live theater, you definitely can catch me performing with Camille A. Brown and Dancers. It's a dance company that's based in New York City. In addition to that, I have a beautiful film called Touch and Agree, which is currently making moves in the film festival circuit, and I'm super excited about that. And welcome.
Okay, it's my turn. Hello, everybody. My name is Rabi. I'm number one, I am a light. I am here to inspire, empower, and I love Dr. Luckett with all of my heart. And yes, I'm an artist, a musician, a singer. I've been singing professionally since 7th grade. I was signed to LaFace Records, home of TLC, Usher, Outkast, Tony Braxton, all of the greats. And I thank God for, letting me be great too. And I met Dr. Luckett at Georgia State University, where I was introduced to musical theater, which started to expand the way I listened to music. And I, had to really learn how to storytell and, all that great stuff. So whenever Dr. Luckett needs me for her plays, for these web events, anything musical, playing my djembe, she might say, Rabi, go. I'm ready. Listen, I'm just her back and her anchor when it comes to music. I am here, you are there. Let's be together in this moment. Yes.
Okay, I'm feeling that energy. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cassie Johnson. I am chairperson and professor of the Department of Theater at Lehigh University in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. I am also an alum of Lehigh University, so I get to lead the department that I actually fell in love with theater at. So big shout out to Lehigh. I teach performance. I also direct, and my area of specific expertise is hip hop theater. I've been doing that for close to 14 years now, hip hop theater pedagogy. And I do that through the creation of my course, Act Like You Know, which invites students to discover the universe of performance through the study of proven hip hop theater performance techniques. I devised this class as a culturally responsive way to empower my students to speak truth to power, particularly at a predominantly white institution like Lehigh University. It was important for me to carve out a space not just for their vitality and existence, but my own as a Black female faculty member. It's been very successful, and it's been able to take me around, getting around the world, but so far around the country, presenting at lots of conferences and festivals. I have also done recorded talks for TEDx, Black Academics TV, and I co-authored a chapter on my work in hip hop theater pedagogy that is in Black Acting Methods Critical Approaches. All of that good juju led me to eventually becoming an artistic associate for the studio, and it's been a joy ever since. I am very excited to be here with all of you today.
All right, I guess that means I'm up at bat. So hello, everyone. I am Dr. Jonathan Matthias Lassiter, and I am so excited to be here with all of my good friends. Hey, Bam! We don't get to see each other that much because we're all over the place, and we're booked and busy, okay? So we're happy to be here with you all. I am a licensed clinical psychologist, and that means I help you get your mental health together, and we all need that right about now, right? Right, but as Khalees said, I could teach you, but I have to charge, right? So, so unless you, you my good friend, I slide you in there, right? But I am a licensed clinical psychologist, and I'm also a professor of psychology at Rowan University, where I teach in the clinical psychology doctoral program, as well as undergraduates as well. And I also do research in the field of health psychology, clinical health psychology, looking at health inequities among racial and sexual minorities. I am the co-editor of the award-winning book, Black LGBT Health in the United States, the intersection of race, gender, and sexual orientation. I've published in several academic journals. One of my most recent publications came out in the Journal of Black Psychology that I'm very proud of. And that is because I love teaching and talking about Black psychology. Black psychology, what is that, you ask? Well, Black psychology is a distinct discipline, different from Eurocentric psychology. What's Eurocentric psychology? It's what they teach you in every school, except they don't call it Eurocentric psychology. And we call it Eurocentric psychology because it's created on the theories of white European men. And Black psychology is really grounded in the cultural values of pre-colonial African societies, such as the Anunian, the Kemetic, and the Dogon. And so we use those values to then help fortify the mental health of people of African descent. So that's one of my passions, and that's something that Dr. Luckett has been so gracious to ask me to contribute to the studio. And so that's my little lane. People were talking about past lives. I heard Dr. Shaffer talk about past lives. In my past life, I used to dance. Yes, not on the level as Jewel. You know, Jewel is doing big things out there in the world. But I did used to dance. I went to Fine Arts High School. I minored in dance, and I had my own dance company in New York City from 2013 to 2016. But dance still informs a lot of the ways in which I look at the world, and it is my little creative lens through which I see the work and integrate the mind body into the mental health work that I do. But I am so happy to be here. I'm going to stop it right there because Dr. Luckett got some things to say, and other people need to introduce themselves. But hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. My name is Frederick Marte, and I am an ambassador to the studio. And I am just honored to be here with all of these talented artists and scholars, and I hope you guys enjoy.
Welcome, everyone. My name is J.D. Dickerson. I am the Chief Operating Officer for the studio. I mainly serve as an advisor for Dr. Luckett, where we work on strategic planning, user experience architecture for our web-based products, and access and implement new processes. I am about as ready as everyone else, I think, to get started. I hope that you all are as in awe of our team of artists and creatives as I am. So let's get to it.
Great. I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Shaffer.
All right, guys. So here at BAM, we stay spiritually grounded, remembering that our connection to the universe and to each other as human beings is absolutely essential. I invite you now, breathe in, breathe out, and just relax as we bless this sacred space. We send our love and wishes for well-being to you and your family. And now we set our intentions to have a beautiful evening of sharing, inspiring, and learning, and also transforming new ways of thinking and new ideas to uplift each other. And as is our custom, we're going to take a moment of silence to remember those whom we love, family, friends, fellow artists who have transitioned to the spirit realm. And also in this moment, we honor Chadwick Boseman, our beloved King T'Challa, AKA the Black Panther. A moment of silence. Breathe in, breathe out, and we all say amen and ashe.
All righty. Thank you so much, Tia. we are gonna turn our cameras off and I'm gonna get this keynote started. So are we ready? Yes. Here we go. Let me share my screen. Let me find that. Okay. All righty. I want to see some more faces because hold on. There we go. Can you all, I see all my studio members' faces. I want to make sure, can somebody just unmute really fast and let me know that you can see this?
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Shaffer. All righty, so here we go. Let's dive in. Some terminology. I want to start with terminology to situate us to make sure we all are talking about the same things. I may use the word methodology, technique, process. I know that at times they can be different things, but they're not mutually exclusive. And when I say methodology, I am talking about a systematic way of doing things. Same thing for technique, same thing for process. If we say HBCU, we mean historically Black colleges and universities. PWI is predominantly white institutions, which can include colleges and universities and other white institutions. I might say theory. I just like to tell folks that's thinking deeply, connecting complex thoughts. And Afrocentricity, Eurocentricity, Dr. Lassiter kind of introduced that a little bit here today. Eurocentricity is when you, for me, when you are centering white Western thought in theater, it means you are centering white Western thought and white students. Afrocentricity centers Black thought, Black American thought, West African thought, and Black students, okay? So it is a paradigm shift for Black students to center themselves. As we know in the US, most of our frameworks that we work within are white and Western, and therefore we are centering white students in our work. A good example, since we're theater folks, I wanted to give an example when I say centering. A good example is simply when you decide which play to produce in your season. So if you have Black students playing Black characters that were written for them, they are being centered in that moment, as long as it's a culturally appropriate centering. And when you do white plays and you have white students, those students are being centered as well in that experience. Of course, what happens is that we tend to lump everybody together because we try to do this non-traditional casting or color conscious casting and color blind casting, and we run into a lot of problems. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, maybe in the Q&A. I get these questions all the time, so I want to get them out of the way. Folks ask me all the time, can white folks teach this? Yes. Can you teach Black acting methods? Absolutely. There's an entire book out there. You teach it the same way you teach anything else. You can absolutely say the same things that I'm saying right now with the PowerPoint in your classroom, with the textbook, and go through the material with the students. It does get a little bit more complex when you get to the Luckett paradigm because we have to put things into context when we talk about appropriation. Just a brief note, the studio did used to talk about the Hendricks method. We have since pivoted to the Luckett paradigm because it's more appropriate and in line with our mission and what we do. So I'm saying Luckett paradigm now, but Freddie Hendricks is still working and he does the Hendricks experience, which is super, super exciting. So you can absolutely teach Black acting methods. Teaching the methodology of the Luckett paradigm, it gets a little bit more complicated, and the studio and I are working through that as we speak every day. Some assumptions that some assumptions I want you to keep in mind, just two of them actually, is that we have come together as a society and even around the world to agree that these are the things that you need to make a strong actor. And how I mean that is you have voice classes, you have dialect classes, you have dance classes, you might have circus, you have acting, you have playwriting. Somebody made that up. And so you have to keep that in mind. Those are things that someone literally said, this is what you need to be a good actor. It's not that I disagree with it. I am just saying that somebody made that up, and it's not the only way to do those things. to teach acting. Okay, those are opinions, not facts. Acting theory, opinion, not a fact. And then another thing I wanted to say is you'll find out I have a high school background. I want to dispel the notion that high school theater is not a real training ground. It absolutely is. My training began in high school and it has stayed with me, and it has been the strongest actor training I've ever had. So, and I'm also a high school theater teacher. I used to teach in high school. So is Dr. Shaffer. So I want to shout out the high school theater teachers, the middle school ones too as well. Done all of that. You guys are amazing. Keep going. You guys do a great job of preparing those students for college, and I know that, okay? All righty. So here we go. We're going to get to the origins to give us some grounding and some rooting. Okay. So Tia and I, we grew up in Atlanta. We were reared in Atlanta, Georgia. We went to a high school called Tri-Cities Performing Arts High School. Atlanta, as you guys may or may not know, is called the Black Mecca. It's a lot of different races and ethnicities in Atlanta, and it's a whole lot of Black people. So much so that Black people, when they come to Atlanta, if they've never been, it's a culture shock for them. Black people have never seen that many Black people before in that one space. When you have a space like that, you are able to center yourself. You go through life basically in Afrocentricity. You know that racism and oppression exists, but you don't, I would say, you don't actively combat it in the same way that Black students have to do it in colleges and universities right now. You go to class and everybody's Black. In our high school training program, 99.9% of folks were Black people, and we were globally Black people: Sierra Leone, Nigeria, Liberia, Guyana, Jamaica, you name it. Folks descended from the enslaved, right? So we were all there, and we were all Black, and so that develops a strong sense of pride in the student. So what I want to connect with you is that Tia M. Shaffer is my co-editor in Black Acting Methods. Tia and I both received our actor training with Freddie Hendrix, the amazing Freddie Hendrix in the bottom left. He was teaching in high school. And when Freddie was teaching in high school, he also started a youth theater company called the Freddie Hendrix Youth Ensemble of Atlanta. They're actually still around today, but he's not connected to the company anymore. So what he would do is he would train students at Tri-Cities High School for the Performing Arts. And then he would see a gift in them, because it wasn't all of the students at Tri-Cities. He would select students to come and to train with him more after school for hours in his professional youth theater company. I actually rotated on the periphery. I was not one of Freddie's favorites, and I love saying that because Freddie loves musicals, which is fine. Now, Dr. Shaffer, y'all, she can blow, she can sing. So she was the lead in Once on This Island. She played Moon. She was the lead in Psalm 13, a show about teen pregnancy, right? She's a fantastic actor. And so she studied with Freddie at Tri-Cities and in his youth theater company. I simply studied with Freddie at Tri-Cities, and I went to see his company. What that did, though, me being on the periphery, that gave me a really good opportunity to be able to step back and kind of experience greatness and what was going on with it. All right. So this is on your screen for a reason. I did not put their names, but I do want you to look at their titles, either where they went to school, awards they were nominated for, whether or not they're on Broadway. Tia and I and Jewel, we went to school with these folks. We trained with Freddie Hendrix with these folks. Amazing, amazing, amazing. And I'm checking my notes, y'all, trying to make sure I get all my points across. So this is important, and I want us to understand why this is important. One, these folks trained with Freddie between, I would say, 1994 to about 2001, somewhere in there. It was a short amount of time, okay? They would actually stay in Freddie's company after 12th grade. Some of them till they were 23. You know, some of them till they were in their 30s. But Freddie trained them in a short amount of time, and so that's important. The other important piece is that it's really hard for Black actors to find respectable, non-stereotypical work. And a lot of these folks have beat the odds. You know, they haven't gained stardom by playing, you know, a gangster or a prostitute, the stereotypical negative, demeaning roles that are assigned to Black people, usually through white imaginations. So these folks have been on Broadway. Fela Sekhan, right in the middle top, she like made history on Broadway. She played Elphaba in Wicked. I hope I'm calling that name right. But anyway, hopefully you recognize some of these folks. Also, their success is massive in the short amount of time. In such a short amount of time, their success is massive, and these folks are still working. They are still considered young. You know, they're not in their senior years at all. They're still getting started. They all trained with Freddie, okay, and Tia and I trained with them as well. And as you may or may not tell, they ended up in diverse areas in the arts. So they were actors for the most part. A couple of them were musicians, but then they became celebrity makeup artists, you know, creating Nicki Minaj's Pink Lip, literally when Nicki Minaj came out. They became Broadway composers, comedians, Jewel, a filmmaker, right? He's a dancer now. Some of them went off to some of these big hitter drama schools as well and graduated from there. So Tia and I trained with these folks. This is just a quick picture of the Freddie Hendrix Youth Ensemble of Atlanta. And so my trajectory, what happened is that I went, I have doggies, y'all. But I went into college, and somewhere around college, after I graduated, I became a high school drama teacher. And so these are actually pictures from some of the things that I did in high school. I was a high school drama teacher and director for 6 years. Y'all know that life. You do the back to school play, then you got to do the fall break play, then you got to do the Thanksgiving play, then you got to do the Christmas play, the Hanukkah play, then you come back, you got to do something for Valentine's Day. You do so much. You do so much in high school, and it's a fantastic training ground too for acting students who want to be teachers a little bit later. So hold on, I'm giving my pup. Okay, cool. Acting teachers who want to be students a little bit, who want to be teachers a little bit later in life. Alrighty, so what happened is I started teaching how I was taught. I started teaching like Freddie Hendrix. I discovered that I could direct from watching Freddie Hendrix. I started putting shows together, and it was hard work, but it was seamless for me in a way. And when I was in class, I got really interested in acting theory in high school. And we would go and we would talk about all these fantastic people who are on your screen right now. And so we were teaching these folks, doing exercises. The students were excited. I was excited. And then my students started saying, I was Miss Luckett at the time. They started saying, Miss Luckett, this is cool, but every time we do a show, you're doing something totally different than what any of these folks are talking about. And they would go, what are you doing? And after a while, they kept asking, and I was like, well, I mean, I hadn't had any formal, you know, director training or teacher training in that sense. I'm teaching how I was taught. I'm teaching like Freddie Hendrix. Well, how are you doing that stuff when we're on the stage and you're bringing in the djembe and you're making us sing on cue and all of this kind of stuff? And I'm just like, it's my thing, you know, it's my thing. And so ultimately, those inquiries from those astute students made me want to write the book that I wanted to give them, to show them what I was talking about, because there was no book to give them. As I say, I could pull books about all of the other acting theorists, but there was nothing to give them about, you know, Freddie Hendrix and about theater work in Afrocentric approaches. What you see on your screen right here is the great Stanislavski. And I'm putting this on your screen just to kind of point out, we're talking about being inclusive. And, you know, Stanislavski is the Mac Daddy of acting theory in the US and in other countries as well. And I'll take a second and let you read what's on your screen, these 2 paragraphs I pulled out from the book. Okay, great. So this is in the very beginning of An Actor Prepares. Now, a couple of things. It's super problematic. It is racist. It is racist. Now, Stanislavski was trying to convince somebody else that you shouldn't stereotype, right? But even this reference to try to convince them to do that is racist. You shouldn't put you shouldn't put stereotypes on people like this and reference them. And so the question you might be wondering is, what do we do, Dr. Luckett? I mean, we got to figure it out together. I'm not saying don't teach Stanislavski. I talk about Stanislavski. What I am saying is that I want you to understand this, is that when you are in class and Black students see this, it is violent and it is traumatic, no matter the intentions behind it. I want to be clear about that because we're Xing that word intentions out now, right? It doesn't matter what your intentions are. This is problematic and students don't feel good. So if I were a Black student in class and, you know, I understand that Stanislavski was trying to convince them not to stereotype Black folks. However, it still hurts me. It's the impact that counts. It's the impact, and it still makes me feel a certain way regardless of what Stanislavski meant, okay? So I continue directing. These are some shows that I directed from, and my pup, this is such bad timing, but my pup has to use the bathroom. So we're gonna try to get through this. I apologize, everybody. I feel like a mom. This is how they feel with toddlers, but he has to go. So I'm gonna stop here and I'm gonna stop my screen sharing for a second. And I'm going to ask Professor Johnson, Cassie Johnson. Uh-oh, we can't hear you.
Well, isn't that, what? Okay, here we go. Here we go.
I'll actually ask, no, thank you, Cassie, too. Dr. Shaffer, are you still there as well? Is Dr. Shaffer still there?
Yes, still here.
Hey, yeah, y'all understand, you know, you got kids. I have to, he has issues. Tia, if you could talk a little bit more about our training, and then Cassie, if you could just kind of piggyback, and I'll be back in like 2 seconds. Apologies, everybody. He has to go.
Sounds good. Tia, would you like to begin, or should the spot be on me? I'm actually ready to call up Robbie with that djembe, and we could get it going that way too.
Yeah, I'll let you guys begin, and I'll chime in as needed.
Okay, well, I guess what I can do to vamp a little bit is to just share the evolution, the proud evolution that Sharrell started to touch on of the Black Acting Method Studio, and how something from the very seminal book that actually, Tia, since I have you here, that you and Sharrell decided to take on. I just always given the question that I just want to throw at you right now, which is, where did this come from, and why were you two the first to figure out that this book needed to be done?
Well, one thing that I find is that there are always gaps, right? In every field, there's always a gap. There's something that's needing to be addressed. There's some group of people that are not being served properly. And so, just like Sharrell just said, in these classrooms, in the high schools, in the theaters, we're learning about everyone except for ourselves. You know, it's almost like we even have Black classrooms where whiteness is being centered. And for Sharrell and I, we call Tri-Cities and Freddie Hendrix YEA, Youth Ensemble of Atlanta, we called it the Wakanda. Because if you remember in the Black Panther movie, there was this wonderful place, like a utopia almost for Black people that no one else knew about. And that's how we felt about the work and the training that we had received. It was a Wakanda, and we felt like the world needed to see it. And so then where you come in, Cassie, is that we said, okay, we know that we have a great theater teacher, Freddie Hendrix, that influenced us greatly, and that he has shaped and he has molded some dynamic artists, teachers, singers, dancers, what have you. So there must be other people who are Black, who also have their methods, their methodologies, and their techniques for empowering and centering their students and their actors that they're working with. And so that's basically where the book came from. So in the book, and if you don't have it, what are you waiting for? It really is a great resource and really a wonderful meeting place of all of these wonderful methodologies that are centering Black people. And we so need that. We need to center ourselves because no one else is going to do that for us. And so enters Kashi with Hip Hop Theater.
So I'm back too. I know you.
Okay.
No, thank you guys so much. Thank you. Attendees, thank you for the chat. I appreciate that. My baby is a little sick as well, so I took him out right before too. But when y'all understand. All righty, so I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to get back to where we were. All righty, we're going to play. All righty, we're back. Can you see this, Dr. Shaffer? Cash?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Cool. All righty. So we were talking about Stanislavski. We had a chat about Stanislavski. I started directing more and more and kept working in my aesthetic, which I call the Luckett paradigm. And then Tia and I took up the helm to edit Black Acting Methods, Critical Approaches. And again, this is the book that I wish I could have given to my students. So what was so amazing is that when we put out the call for this book, you know, folks came out of the woodwork and were like, oh my God, I knew it wasn't just me. I knew that, number one, my work was important. I knew I was working in a different paradigm as well. I knew that there are so many different ways to teach acting. So this is Black Acting Methods, Critical Approaches. It came out in October of 2016 to kind of just give you that timeline. And now we're going to talk about the field and the origins of the studio. So you ask, what are Black acting methods? The definition is in front of you, and I'm going to read it as well. Black acting methods are rituals, processes, and techniques rooted in a Black American aesthetic, where Afrocentricity and Black modes of expression inform how actors engage with and interpret text that are meant to be performed. And that's literary text on the page, and we also consider body as text. We actually start with the body. Okay, so that's the definition of Black acting methods. When somebody says, I have a Black acting method, it has to be rooted in Afrocentricity. So a quick point I want to make is that if there is an acting teacher and that acting teacher is Black, they are not doing a Black acting method. That is not how it works, okay? There are tons of Black teachers who are teaching from a white Western perspective. That is totally cool for them. But just because you are Black doesn't mean you're doing a Black acting method. You actually also have to be doing a method. There's a difference between doing some exercises and then having a systematic approach that helps to get the actor to their character and to the world of the play, that you do kind of the same way over and over again. All righty. So the book had 4 goals. I'll put 3 of them up here. Black acting methods, critical approaches. First, we wanted to honor and rightfully identify Blacks as central co-creators of acting and directing theory. Theater began in Africa. I'll say it again, theater began in Africa. Africans were the first to do artistic expression. We all come from Africa. We are all connected, you know, kind of like siblings or cousins. So this is a wonderful tradition that we can all be a part of, okay? It's to provide culturally relevant frameworks for Black people who are pursuing careers in acting. This does not mean that every Black person who comes to train at the Black Acting Methods Studio is going to love what we're doing. No, some of them love what we're doing because it works for them. It's just like all of the other methodologies. It's a tool in your toolbox that you put in your toolbox, right? You talk about, you come into the Luckett paradigm to do, to study the Luckett paradigm. You study soul work, Crystal Chanel Truscott's work. And you put those tools in your toolbox and you use what works for you. We also wanted to provide diverse methodologies for actors and teachers of all races, heritages, and cultures to utilize. And the book also highlights the activism in a lot of these methodologies work. So Black Acting Methods, the book came out and then it exploded, which is amazing. So I want to show you all of what it is, okay? And I'm pulling this directly from the Black Acting Methods website, blackactingmethods.com. So we talked about it's a field. It's a field. It's a field of study that you can actually locate your work in as long as you know what you're talking about and you know what Afrocentricity is, and you have checked all of those boxes as well, and you actually have a methodology, technique, or process that you're using. They are techniques, okay? So Black Acting Methods are techniques. They are specific and they're universal, given its grounding in Afrocentric sensibilities, inclusion, community. Black Acting Methods, people say that too, and they're referring to the book. And then we already talked about how they're inclusive. Great. So I want to talk about the origins of the studio. We're doing good on time. We're getting there. The origins of the studio. So what happened is I just wanted to delve deep into the work of Black Acting Methods with students. So what you may not know is that the studio actually started off as a student group led by me and Mr. Rabi, and this is the student group, Black Acting Methods, and that's Frederick Marte, the second from left. I'm so proud of Frederick, who's now an ambassador with the studio. And I still work with a couple of these other actors as well. So I was at a college and I started, it's just like a student group. I started a group and we got into Black acting theory. We trained folks, you know, they were doing leadership workshops, etc. So it was fantastic. But then I decided that I wanted to take the studio out of that student group format, because I realized how important the work was. And I wanted to call in some heavy hitters and make the studio a training program with heavy hitter instructors. Bam, 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 there we go. So in different ways, and we can talk about this in the, you know, at the Q&A, in different ways, our lives intersected. And when it was time for me to build this studio out, I invited folks to be artistic associates at the studio. So this is a picture of us with the wonderful Freddie Hendricks. So now the studio is an actor training program, and we also do other things as well. Studio touchstones. What is the studio about, you say? We call it MAX, okay? Mental health is really important. Afrocentricity. We believe the actor is the most important person in the world. Yes, I'm biased. The most important person in the world, because they are, you know, they have to figure out how to emote all types of things. And actors are people who can be with people in times of need, in times of trauma, along with celebration. We celebrate community. We're really big on knowledge because we've all been miseducated. So we have to re-educate ourselves. That's what's so funny. A lot of times people come to the studio and they're like, I want to be on my feet right now. I want to do the Luckett paradigm. And we're like, wait a minute, you don't even know where we're coming from. So we have to get that knowledge piece. It's really important. We're also big on spirituality. So here's the studio in front of you. We all teach. It's all exciting. I wanted to briefly hit on this. I'm not going to have a lot of time to talk about this, but I know folks are like, well, what is the Luckett paradigm? What is the Luckett paradigm? What do you do? The Luckett paradigm is exactly what it's called. It's a paradigm shift. It's a paradigm shift. You have to throw the whole box away. What you've been taught about actor training, throw the whole box away. We include Afrocentricity in it. In the Luckett paradigm, we center Afrocentricity. Students are reoriented. Writing is also a revolutionary act. You have to understand that writing is a revolutionary act for Black folks, okay? Because that is actually one of my strongest recommendations when people are wondering where to start in the curriculum. You must give Black folks a place to create their own work. One, it's connecting us back to West African values of oral tradition, to get away from the script, not privileging the script, but privileging the body. And as you see, we all know that the script is dead. We say it all the time because we say bring it to life, right? It's a revolutionary act. Secondly, is because Black people have not had the chance to write their lives. We have historically had white people write negative racist things about us, and we have to deal with it all day, all day, all day, every time. Right? So it's important to let the Black students have a space where where they can devise, where they can create on their own. When you're looking for like a definition or describing what's in the Luckett paradigm, we call it dreams. We devise without a script. That is something that Freddie Hendricks also does. We have reverence of Black culture. Ensemble is really important. Empowered authorship, activism, musicality, spirituality. It's all in there. So the work that the studio is really working to do is to set the record straight, to be more honest and truthful, and have a more just conversation about acting theory and what are the minds thinking about these things, not just the bodies embodying these characters, but the minds that's making this knowledge. And so this is literally what we teach right now. This is our canon in actor training. Again, these folks are fantastic. I use Uta Hagen's book, but this looks like the president of the United States picture in a way, you know, the poster, right? This is coming from, for the most part, a white Western paradigm. And I do know Tadashi Suzuki, you know, he's bringing in a Japanese aesthetic to it as well. And so he's the only person of color, we could say, right? Suzuki. And Boal kind of sits in both, actually. If you ask me where does Boal go? We call him a person of color, but I've heard also that he was white passing and white presenting in a lot of ways. So, but I did put him on here. But when you talk about, if you look at this again, you talk about, oh, well, who are the great voices in acting theory? Well, acting began in Africa. So where are those folks, right? They're not here. And then when you go to people of color, look at what happens. So the studio's work is to have all of us come together, you know, make this happen and show a truer picture of what acting theorists look like. And so I'll let you just take that in for a second. And I'm sure that there are many more, but I just wanted to show you this. This is what your students should be exposed to. This is what they should be exposed to. It might be impossible for them to learn all of these methodologies and thoughts, but they need to know that they exist and that they're out there and where to find them. So that's what we're going to talk to. I'm looking at my time. We're doing great, guys. Thank y'all so much. All right. You say, where do I begin Black Acting Method Studio? Knowledge. And we just talked about that. So what we're going to do is, we're going to give you places that you can begin. And Cassie's going to talk about hip hop theater a little bit. And the good news is that SETC is going to send you these resources, actually, so you don't have to scramble to write them down. SETC, thank you for doing that. They'll send this to you guys. Okay, so knowledge. Teach BAM. Read the chapters literally and have a class discussion. I think sometimes, again, we want to jump in the ocean and start swimming when you kind of need to dip your toe into something you don't know about. The book is there. Use the book. You know, I've already taught an entire semester where I used Black Acting Methods Critical Approaches, and it was in a performance studies class, actually. So the book is there. Take it chapter by chapter. Find some chapters that you like, but use the book. That's a good starting place. Read Barbara Ann Teer in the National Black Theater. I'm gonna pause because I'm gonna talk about her on the next slide, but Teer, Technology of the Soul, and Stolen Legacy as well. I'm gonna talk about that on another slide too. But begin with BAM. I want you guys to know this because it's living on the margins and it shouldn't be. So this is a book called Barbara Ann Teer in the National Black Theater, Transformational Forces in Harlem. This book, you can buy this right now. Barbara Ann Teer was an acting theorist. She started the National Black Theater. They are amazing. They still exist. She has gone on to the ancestors. Y'all, this book is amazing. I want you guys to know that this book has her methodology in it. And it is Afrocentric. It's a Black acting methodology. I was so upset that I did not hear about this book until graduate school. I was like, what? It's an entire book out there with this stuff and I don't know anything about it. So we're going to send you the link where you can buy it. But I encourage you, read this book. It's amazing the work that she did. I love the work that she did and I always work to honor her. Her technique is called Teer Technology of Soul. And they don't teach it anymore at the National Black Theater, but we can certainly talk about it and keep her work alive. Stolen Legacy, I'm gonna hit on this really quickly. This book was banned. It's one of the first African-American books banned in the 50s when it came out. Y'all have to get into this. I'll just let you read the chapter titles on your left. These are some of the chapters out of the book. This can be used in all disciplines, actually. It's not a book that's directly rooted to theater, but it is because we all have been taught that the Greeks started theater, as if nobody in the whole entire world was doing any kind of performing or anything until the Greeks came along. And so this book gives us a better history. It's a strong argument. I encourage you to get Stolen Legacy, read Stolen Legacy. It's mind-blowing. It is mind-blowing. I just wanted to show you guys this really fast because I put our greats at the bottom that we teach, that they did everything in the whole entire world. And I just wanted to put Black philosophers so that you could see them, that we don't get exposed to, and we need to start exposing students to them. That's Imhotep. Imhotep is actually the oldest recorded personality in history. Tahotep was the first person to talk about human and nature. Kagimni was actually 1,800 years before Buddha, and he was the first person to talk about being good for goodness sake. So it would help if we all talked about African philosophers. There are tons of them. And these are some places that you can start. Here's another quick DVD I wanted to talk about really fast. This is very new. It is amazing. I encourage you guys to get it if you can. It's Africa's Great Civilizations. They talk about artistry, the origins of artistry in Africa. I teach it as well. My students love it. It just does a really good job of talking about the beginning of humanity, okay? And we're coming towards the end. So you guys might say, Dr. Luckett, where's the Black Acting Method Studio going? This is where we're going. So I'll let you take this in for a second. We're going to start those routine coffee chats soon. Black Acting Method certification, Luckett Paradigm classes. The Luckett Paradigm book is on the way. Mental health events, cross-cultural harmony training. We also do consultation. We do equity, diversity, inclusion work, and also anti-racist work as well. That's our cross-cultural harmony training. Okay. If you haven't already, follow us on Instagram at Black Acting Methods. We love, love connecting with folks from across the globe on our Instagram. And good, it says thank you. Okay, great. Thank you guys. I'm gonna stop my screen share. I think we're almost at time. All righty, I think you guys can see me. So before I turn it over to Cashy, I wanted to give you two things. So I gave you those resources: Black Acting Methods, Critical Approaches, Barbara Ann Teer, the book on Barbara Ann Teer, Stolen Legacy, and Africa's Great Civilizations. And so I want to give you some other places that you can start or continue, because I know we're in COVID. People are financially strapped in different ways. And we're also in the Black Lives Matter, another Black Lives Matter iteration, which is always sad and always uplifting in some ways. It's really hard. It's really hard right now. So I want to say some things that you can do today, that you can buy those books. Here's what I encourage you guys to do. Just two things. One, I want you to start understanding that all plays are race plays, R-A-C-E. I want to encourage you to start talking about race in all of your plays, every single one of them. When you do a race play, that does not mean you are doing Black work or Latinx work or First Nations work. White people are raced as well. White people have a culture. If you are teaching A Streetcar Named Desire, talk about the facets of race in A Streetcar Named Desire. How did it affect the playwright? How did it affect the validity of the play, right? When you talk about that with race. So stop saying, we're gonna now talk about race, so let's go to August Wilson. No. So I talk about race in all of my plays. Every single play I teach, every play is a race play. Once we get there, I feel like can have a better understanding of diversity and place in the world, and how to push towards cross-cultural harmony. The second one that is really easy, this is what I'm going to charge you guys with. You know how when you're talking and you say, the great theorists, Stanislavski, Meisner, Hagen, Chekhov, cool. I want you to be able to say Stanislavski, Luckett, soul work, Chekhov, right? Add the Black acting theorist into your lexicon. You don't have to take a workshop to know them. You don't even have to read about them like that. It's okay. You can talk about them, because when you don't talk about it, it erases it, right? And I have not taken workshops from all of the white acting theorists, right? I certainly know about them. I know about Meyerhold and biomechanics. The same way that I can say Meyerhold biomechanics is the same way I need to be able to say the Hendricks experience, or, you know, the Luckett paradigm. Add those techniques into your canon, so we normalize it for students. So they go, oh, okay, today we're doing the Luckett paradigm, but I know Stanislavski exists. You understand? Okay, cool. So right now I'm going to turn it over to Kashi to talk a little bit about hip hop theater, about 4 to 5 minutes, and then we're going to go to the Q&A. You guys have been amazing. Thank you.
The life of Zoom. Thank you for that mute notification, Zoom. So hello, everyone. Hip hop theater, a mini crash course in 4 minutes. I'll try. So once again, my name is Kashi Johnson. I am a New York City native, repping Southside Jamaica, Queens. And I am also a woman of a certain age who likes to tell her students that she was in the room when hip hop was being born. So I get my passion and my love for hip hop culture, honestly, and I am a theater artist, dyed in the wool forever and will be. So merging those two passions together has been my life's work for close to 15 years now, and I'm happy to share what I can with you. What is hip hop theater? Let's start there. I think Wikipedia has a pretty succinct definition that kind of gets at it. It's a form of theater that presents stories and performances rooted in the application of one or more of the 5 foundational elements of hip hop culture. What are the foundational elements of hip hop culture? You know them. The MC, the DJ, the B-boy or B-girl, AKA the breakdancer, the graffiti artist, and the 5th element, which can be a bit of a trick for some people who may know hip hop and may not know hip hop. The 5th foundational element is knowledge. And so without knowledge of self, knowledge of the culture, experiencing and truly manifesting inside of hip hop is a bit of a one-off. It doesn't really wash. You can do it on the surface, but you have to know. Just like what Sharrell is presenting, you have to know the culture in order to experience and create within it. That's what led me to the creation of my class. I created Act Like You Know, not just because they were my passions, but I also recognized that my students were in need of a safe space where they could become critical change agents for a campus community that at times would prove to be very unwelcoming, sometimes downright volatile, and just not reflective of who they were and their experiences. I've been teaching that course for 13 years now, and so over time we have developed the reputation of being a place where students can come to create that kind of work. The formula or the formulation of the course has evolved over time, but I take my cues from my students, keeping, of course, as we all do, what works and letting the other stuff go by the wayside. And what I really understand to be very important is that no matter what the form of expression, artistic expression, building that safe space and community is all. Many of the students develop lasting friendships and are able to collaborate as artists, just like I would think the YEA experience beyond their Lehigh. I'm not trying to compare myself, but I'm just saying, you know, they stay connected. There have been albums formed and, you know, shows that have been written and things that have been created by these students who have all gone through this hip hop theater course. I was asked to give you a takeaway, which is what I will do so we can get to the Q&A very quickly. If you wanted to just start to dabble in it, I would first encourage everyone to watch, if you want exposure to hip hop culture overall, Netflix has a very good documentary series called Hip Hop Evolution. It's a couple of seasons. I believe it's in the fourth season now, and it's a pretty good representation of the culture over time. And it's something where even if you aren't exposed to hip hop at all, you may be exposed. You grew up probably hearing some of the names, recalling some of the instances. And so it's interesting to see how you may weave yourself into hip hop culture without even realizing it. Knowledge of self is what is important. If you're going to bring this to your course, you have to ground yourself authentically with what you know. Your students will know. If you try to front and act like this is something that, you know, that you were a master of, you're probably going to get called out unless you truly are a master. So the best thing that I can say is if you do embark on hip hop theater, do it from a place of authenticity. Share where you're entering. Share why you're trying or why you are doing this work, and go on it together. The most beautiful thing about hip hop theater for me is that it is an intergenerational experience. I am able to share what I know and love about the culture and have known for the past years. They are able to tell me now about my culture as it's now being transformed and evolving. And so there is a give and take there. You know, I would not probably be a fan of Cardi B. Yes, I am. But I am because of the steadfast determination of two of my students that eventually over time made me understand some things. Same thing can be said for Childish Gambino. I found Kendrick Lamar on my own, but my point is their journey and their discovery is intrinsically tied to what I offer them. The assignment, I would start with the hip hop alias. That's what I call it. It's the renaming of oneself. Some people like to reduce it to saying what my rap name is. In hip hop, everybody is not an MC. So you have to figure out what lane you're in. But in the meantime, if you're just under the umbrella of hip hop, rename yourself. Sometimes people have names that are given to them. Sometimes people reclaim their identity on their own. But one of my first homework assignments is to have students go away, rename themselves, come back and explain to us not only what their new name is, how it is spelt, why they came to that. And if it is worthy of respect, meaning something that they didn't just come up with 2 seconds, but they actually gave time and thought to it, and they can tell us something compelling, well, then they get that respect, and they will be known as that throughout the semester. My alias is Queen Cash. There is a nice alliteration there. I did not give myself that name. I am proud of that name because my students gave that to me like 8 years ago. My colleagues actually thought I was going around telling my students to call me Queen. That wasn't it. It was actually bestowed on me by my students in respect for what I was able to offer them. And so I do rock that crown from time to time, but I always do so with respect and honor. So might be a fun place to start. Sharrell?
No, I'm here. I was typing in the chat. Thank you so much, Professor Johnson. And I always like to brag. Professor Johnson is a hip hop theater pedagogy pioneer, y'all. There are only two. This is the truth. Two tenured professors in the country that specialize it, meaning that's what they teach through, not teaching a unit, meaning when you take their acting classes, they're gonna teach hip hop theater. And Professor Johnson does it with acting, and she's at Lehigh University, and Kirby Hines does it in playwriting. He's a hip hop theater playwright at UC Riverside. So we had a wonderful talk with those two this past summer. It was great. They were, it was hip hop, which is fantastic. Okay, cool. So if I could get the BAM studio to unmute yourselves or take you, come back with your videos, maybe not unmute, but come back with your videos. Let me just get the instructors, please. Let me just get the instructors. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I see Dr. Lassiter has been in the chat asking questions. We'll just take a few questions and see kind of where we land. And so I'll talk, and if there's something you'd like to say, please unmute yourself and talk as well, and raise your hand. as an Afrocentric method, does that also include Black practices from the Caribbean, Latinx, etc.? My response to that on the spot is that you would have to locate, the person with the method would have to locate their work in Afrocentricity. And I hope I'm answering your question. Hope I'm answering your question, but that's the answer to that. It depends on the, it depends on how the person feels about it. Now, we know we locate people ourselves, sometimes like I did with Barbara Ann Teer, but that would be up to the person to say that I'm in the field of Black acting methods. Something that I actually meant to say too, really fast, is that you guys have wonderful questions. So, couple of things. Before COVID-19, the studio would go in person to schools and universities. We were doing less virtual work, though we were always working on the online institute. Now with COVID-19, we're doing our workshops online, on Zoom, having a terrific time. There are tons of courses that we are about to offer that's going to come out fall, spring, that you will be able to take at our online institute, okay? So they're not there yet. So what I would suggest you do, if you're really interested in that, you have to subscribe, you know, and stay in contact with us, because we're going to tell you when when they're released. You know, we're making moves. It's not that many of us. We all have wonderful jobs as well. Some of us got day jobs and stuff, right? So the work that we do is actually really hard and it's painstaking and it takes time. So we are working on that. So if you can't catch us at a school, you know, a university or a college, just hold on and we're going to get those courses online for you, okay? That you can take acting courses, singing courses, the Luckett paradigm courses, Black acting methods courses, Black acting methods certifications. It's coming. It's coming. Okay. But right now, if you want to work with us, you have to email us. And somebody put that in the email, ASST.admin@blackactingmethods.com. ASST.admin@blackactingmethods.com. You got to email us and we'll talk. Okay. Cool. How does this work of Black acting methods fit into the work against the curriculum of BFA programs? You wonder how happy I would be if I was at a violently white institution like Syracuse. Let me not laugh like that. So this is a good example of Afrocentricity. We don't think about that. It doesn't matter. It's not on our radar. I don't know. And that's the real answer, right? People who want to work with us, they come to work with us. We are totally committed to Black acting methods, to methodologies and Afrocentricity. We do not wonder how white people are receiving the work, what they think about it in that way. We can't do this type of work if we would, okay? Because when you start asking that question, what are you doing? You start centering white people. You go back, I just want you guys to catch that. You start going like this, trying to connect it back to that, as if that is the most important thing, as if what that, you know, right? So we don't even, when we do our work, we don't talk about that in that manner. You know, we want to give all students a fantastic education. And I'll go ahead and hit on that question. Somebody asked about white students and Black acting methods. White students get in the way they fit in the same way Black students and people of color get in the way they fit in classes when we're doing Stanislavski, Meisner, Chekhov, Linklater, no different. So if they're white, if they're Latinx, Asian American, they come to class and we say, all right, y'all, let's go. And we work, right? We work. Cool. All righty. What tips would you give for Black students on approaching a role? What has worked for you all in creating a character? Somebody want to take that one? It's a real general question.
Is this just in general with our process, or, you know?
The question reads, what tips would you give for Black students on approaching a role? What has worked for you all in creating a character?
I'm hedging somewhere around thinking about the undergraduate, but the truth of the matter is, as much as you can empower them with knowledge of self and the ability to bring what they know of themselves to that role, and to find ways to apply the technique and craft, of course, but not to diminish their identities or try to fold and fit into something that they perceive as the right, as opposed to being their full self and trying to figure out how to embody the role in that way, I think is important. I know when I was of a certain age in college, I still didn't know who I was, but if I would have been told maybe that my size and my type and who I was as a young actress was of value and of worth, and not something to be diminished and put off to the side, or I should try to lose weight to get that, I might have had a different experience, a more fuller experience, instead of waiting so much later in life to come into that. But it's a slippery slope when you're younger. My 2 cents.
Cool. Thank you. How should we balance the ideas that writing is a revolutionary act with the one that the text is not privileged, but is dead? So when I speak of writing, I mean on a paper and not on paper. Body as text as well. In terms of how do you balance it? What the studio is really saying is that we right now teach our actors that they are paralyzed without a script. Have you ever, y'all try it? Try it. Seriously, you will be so surprised. Go into the classroom if you hadn't already and be like, all right, y'all, we're gonna create a piece. I mean, they don't know what to do. They don't know what to do. And that's also giving, to me, too much power to the playwright, as if we can't write our own stories, as if my story is not important, as if I need somebody else to write a story for me. Yes, we have some fantastic playwrights. I'm not saying that, but that is not the only way. So the balance is however you want to balance it. I do scripted work. I create without scripts. So it just depends. Okay. But when we're talking about script too, we're also talking about in the body as well. I wanted to throw it to Rabi really fast, if you don't mind, Rabi, because we might have some middle school or folks who teach younger people on here. And I just wanted you to, if you could speak briefly about your experience, because you do a bit of the Luckett paradigm with your students in the past in your work, mixed with a little bit of the Hendrix experience. So if you could just talk about that and how it works with the students, the younger group.
Yeah. I'm all about just embracing yourself and who you are, honestly, at the core. And I think that is the beauty in doing unscripted work, because you have that ability to sit with yourself and say, like, okay, what do I feel about this or about this certain situation? You know what I'm saying? So that's the same type of conversations that I have with my elementary school kids when I work with them. Okay, it's time to come back to school. Somebody might be a little nervous. Somebody might be scared that they're going to be get bullied or any of that. So we have these roundtable discussions and we talk about how we feel authentically, like how they feel as kids. You know what I'm saying? How does that make you feel? I have them break up into groups. Somebody write a song about that. Okay, that's how it makes you feel. And they create a song, create a rap, create a dance, create a poem, and they present that to me. I weave it together, and they on their own have collectively created this full piece about bullying, you know what I'm saying, about Christmas, about test taking, for Black History Month. And I do this with little kids, and they wrote it all themselves. It came from their minds, you know what I'm saying? So it empowers them and gives them a great sense of self. Yeah, and it's fun, so yeah.
I just wanted to pick up, someone wrote in the chat about expounding more on body as the text. And, for me, that's when like the idea of dance is super important, because as dance teachers and as a creator, we don't have a script. So a lot of that relies on muscle memory. So most of these things that we talk about in the Black acting methods is this idea of like, what do you remember? And I think it's also about living in that moment. And how does your body respond in that moment, rather than saying, oh, let me go look at my paper? Because growing up, we never had that opportunity. It was like, you come in here tomorrow, know your stuff, and then be able to open up and be vulnerable and to share. Now, there is an approach to writing those things down. Like once you can get a full understanding of the entire scope, but the things that we do as movers, dancers, which integrate into theater, that allows the professional and the working body to physically utilize the muscle memory. So that's how.
Great. We'll do one more. Where do you see the industry going in regards to diversity and inclusion? Does anybody want to take that one? Where is it going?
I think.
Let me. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Just real quick. I think the thing that COVID-19 has done has allowed people to listen and to have these uncomfortable conversations. I have been in a lot of uncomfortable conversations to the point where some people don't want to be exposed. They rather have private conversations. But what I think is happening now, there's been this global conversation, which I think has been long overdue. So for me, where it's going now is we're slowly putting a Band-Aid over a lot of old wounds. So the conversation has started. I'll just add that.
Did you want to say something, Cassie?
No, I just want to sit here and make faces, and people in the chat and pick that. I mean, some days I think I know. I do agree with what Jules shared. We are in a different time. Corona is doing some things. I'm very pessimistic about many things. I'm an optimist overall, but I don't want to be too hopeful, but I am right now. But progress is slow. Genuine progress is slow moving. And, I was saying to someone the other day, like we see the waves that are being made, but when they subside, how long before it comes again? And so I'm riding the wave for as long as I can. And I am hopeful as it happens, but it's going to take more than a summer and more, I think, than a pandemic. And hopefully the roots of things like this studio, and the work that all of us are doing, and the awakening that we seem to be collectively happening, has staying power. One can only hope that it actually can entrench in a way where people can understand their privilege and not only recognize it, but make room for the next person. That is the trick. And so my face and my size go along with, when I grew up, my father always said, when things get tight, folks get white. And I'm not trying to be exclusionary. I'm just trying to say that recognizing that people have things. They have power, they have privilege, they have property. And it's not like overnight people are just going to give that up. But the only way it does change is the evolution, the redistribution. How does that happen? I hope I'm older, I stay alive long enough to stick around and see, because we're just at the very beginning of that process.
Tia, I believe you wanted to say something, Dr. Shaffer.
I did and I didn't. I mean, to me, that's a question that is very, very loaded. I mean, you could approach it from so many different perspectives. I'll speak personally for myself. I have reached a point where I try not to even worry about things that big, and maybe it's selfish of me not to worry about it, but I think some things are too daunting for me to even think about. So I feel like, okay, the question was about diversity and inclusion. So inclusion means that we want everyone to be included. Well, I don't have control over who's including me or who's accepting me. I just think that we have to honor ourselves, center ourselves as we're doing now. And I think that applies to whether you're acting or whether you're in corporate America, whatever you're doing. Know who you are, get together with like-minded people who think like you do. And if you have to, create your own little bubble, and then those who want to join can join. But to think about the whole country, are we going to accept Black people? Are we going to, it's just too much. So I probably didn't give a good answer, but I really, it's too much.
And that's fair. That's fair. Okay, guys. Y'all have been awesome. Thank you guys who stayed for the Q&A. We are wrapping up. I'll say one more time that because I see some more questions coming in, is that you can train with us. We're working on ways to make that training more accessible right now in terms of geography, if that makes sense. So we're working on it. It's going to be there. The Online Institute is going to have a re-grand opening, and you're going to be able to log on, and you're going to be able to connect with us to get actor coaching, to take acting classes, to do some movement with Jewel D. Lane, to work with the studio all together, to train. Some of you want to get trained in Black acting methods so you feel fantastic in the classroom and you feel like you got it. We're working on all of that. We're doing, you know, we are doing some really serious work, and so it just takes a minute, but hang tight. Hang tight, and we got you in a second. And until then, thank you, SETC. Y'all have been fantastic. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. Go forth. You got it. Keep going. If you don't do anything else, get the book, read the book. Oh, real fast, somebody, and I appreciate that everybody all the time, they want to give the book money to us. Unfortunately, that's a hard lesson to learn as a professor. Goodness, y'all. Anyway, okay, I'm getting real. But anyway, so Teer and I, we had no idea that the book was going to be a #1 bestseller in the field of theater. We was doing stuff that professors do. We was like, oh yeah, we're going to write this book. You know, a couple of people going to read it. It's going to be good. So we actually signed with the publisher, an academic press, Rutledge. And if you don't know anything about professors, when they sign with academic presses, the academic press, they control it. So the best place for you to buy the book is actually Amazon or Rutledge. Thank you so much for wanting to support us. Sometimes when we go on tour, we do have books, and you can support the studio in that way. But listen, JD is about to do a donation button on the website. We got you. So please, JD will have it up by tomorrow. If you'd love to, you know, look, we need the support, but unfortunately proceeds from the book actually do not go to us. But I'm down to start a petition. Okay, SETC, y'all have been fantastic. I have a sense of humor, y'all. Y'all have been fantastic. Thank you guys so much. This has been so wonderful. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, studio members. Y'all are amazing. Thank you so much, JD. Thank you, Frederick. Thank you, attendees. We are out of here.
Bye. Thank you so much. Everybody buy the book.